This festival is unlike what you might have heard of festivals that allow entry to everybody. The blank of the term I just used, the fringe festivals, that's the word I'm coming up with, that are kind of open to all. This is a festival that's its goals basically are to bring as much international art presentations that is all adjudicated, planned for, and previewed, I guess is the best way to put it, so that what you're going to see are events that are pretty spectacular in their quality, pretty international and wide-ranging in the options, and are in all the arts. So basically, Sibiu, Romania becomes the home for the arts for about 10 days. And the way this festival works, it can keep you very, very busy from about noon until midnight every day. So they have main squares in town and multiple venues around the town. And they have essentially two types of events you go to. There's the indoor events, which require a ticket. And those could be anything from musical productions to theatrical events, to dance events, but they're all indoors and require ticketing because of the seating capacities. The other option is all the things that are happening in all the squares and around the town that don't require tickets, you just show up for it. There is something happening everywhere in Sibiu at this point in time. Sibiu is this wonderful medieval town that still has part of its historic walls that kind of kept Sibiu safe through the medieval times. They still have parts of it all in place, and you get to visit and see it. And this lovely little romantic town just in the middle of Romania, in the middle of Transylvania. So it's a great place to visit, great architecture. It's a walking paradise. Where we stay basically is housing that's just a couple blocks away from the entrance to the main square. There are open air markets for food, a giant farmer's market every day. So we basically would just wander down to the farmer's market in the morning, come back and start seeing shows every day. So let me start showing you some pictures. I'll talk you through the types of things that happen there. Now, I'm someone who's fascinated with architecture. I teach architectural history and design. So I go into these buildings and just kind of drool a little bit and get enamored with the incredible architecture from Europe and around. So I've got some shots of just some, typical buildings that you're going to find. Now, there's lots of great options when you're in Sibiu. And what we're going to be doing with all the students essentially is there will be a listing of all the shows, all the presentations that will be happening the entire 10 days during this festival. And as part of this class, we're going to get online and order tickets for everyone. The tickets are part of the class itself. You get up to 2 tickets a day for shows. You can see more if you wish, but 2 is about all you can squeeze in with everything else. And we'll go through and figure out which shows you want to see. And I made a point myself of trying to see things that I never had the opportunity to see before and may never have an opportunity to see again. So I purposely chose shows because of what they were. I wanted to see what Chinese red opera was. I wanted to see what Japanese no theater was. I wanted to see the dance the United Kingdom sent over. There's just so many things that I wanted to make sure I got. So I broadened my eyes as much as possible so I could see things, not just stuff I knew, but mostly stuff that was going to be exciting and innovative for me. So we're going to go through and we're going to pick all the shows, and I will be able to help you decide on what things to see. And sometimes the location of these adds an additional time frame that you need to account for so you can make it to everything. In fact, one of the shows I went to when I was there before was in an old abandoned castle up on top of the hill. So we took a bus out and walked up this glorious hill and revealed this beautiful castle keep up on top. And then you sit in there and watch Japanese no theater. And it was just a gorgeous, beautiful moment. But you have to be aware of where you're going, because if you had tickets to another show that's immediately following that, you're not going to make it. So I'll help you walk through all that, because I'm familiar with the town, I'm familiar with all the venues. I'm familiar with all the theaters and the music performances. So we'll get all that taken care of before we go over there. And everyone will be seeing at least 2 shows a day that they get tickets for. You're going to see a lot more. In my 10 days there, I saw about 55 shows. And that included parades, art exhibits, dance, music, theater. It's going on from noon until almost midnight every single day. So we will get this all mapped out ahead of time, and you'll get a chance to see shows that are just pretty spectacular in their scale. The one they were always pushing for, they do this incredible performance of Faust that the company or the country of Romania supports. And it's a production that had 150 people in it. It was in a warehouse. It was gigantic. It was just a ball, just it's at a scale that most people would never expect to see. So it was the type of event that you kind of walk away from going, wow, this is exactly what's great about the arts. This is what's fabulous about travel and seeing everyone's interpretation of all these incredible stories. So we will see shows every day. We will wander the squares and see, they have 3 performance squares where everything happens. There's parades every day, giant creatures. I'll show you some more pictures. We'll get through and you'll start to see some of the stuff. This was just one of the many churches, this great Baroque church that I just stumbled upon. There was not an event going in here at the time. I just liked the church, so I had to get some pictures going on. This is one of the most famous bridges at the square. This is the Liar's Bridge that supposedly, if you ever stand on this bridge and spout an untruth, the bridge will collapse under you. But Ceausescu actually gave a speech in there, so they pretty much decided that's not true. He was not known for his honesty. In case you're wondering, these lovely little things are eyebrow dormers. I love eyebrow dormers. I think they're a great architectural feature. You see it in medieval stuff all the time. One of the many castles, this is what you can expect when you're there. Medieval city plan with streets that go up and down hills that curve and seem organic and resilient as they kind of follow the city around, and these great old walls and buildings that surround. This is the type of stuff that was going on all day long. There's parades, there's puppets, there's musical performances. And we're going to get to one of my favorites here in a little bit. I don't want to give it away until we get there. As an example, this was one of the German productions. This was about a couple going through marital disharmony. And what's great about all the productions is every show is done in their native language. And they are super titled in, for example, in German, this was a German production, they were super titled in English and in Romanian. If it's a Romanian production, it's super titled in English. If it's an English production, it's super titled in Romanian. So you have super titles. If you speak English, you will be able to be, every single show is accessible to you. You can see them all, you can understand them all, you can read them all. And the super titles are part of it. So you can follow along and stay right with it. Because it's Germany and their technology is wild, this was where the set ended by the end of the show. As the conflict between the 2 characters continued, the set lifted up and became vertical, and the actors are having to crawl up and down these scenic elements to get in and out of bed and answer the phone. It was kind of quite lovely and another typical parade. Every night there's parades with lights. Every day there's parades with characters. The circus motif, just it's all on such a grand scale and so energetic. It's just you just constantly want to be part of it. Just more shots of these extraordinary, and they have a lot of inflatable costumes, as you can see, and giant inflatable creatures that would all of a sudden you're standing there in the square and these giant inflatable creatures come out from behind the building and start wandering around. It's pretty cool. And this was the one that I was warning you about. It was so lovely. We went to the square one night, and this woman who was a trapeze artist was suspended from these balloons. And you see the rope going down. There was just two technicians basically with ropes holding her, and they'd raise her and lower her. And there was a circus master on stilts walking through the crowd. Now there's probably a couple thousand people in the square, and they just wandered through the crowd. They'd come down and they'd bring her down, and she'd touch, and he'd spin her, and she'd spin in the trapeze. And of course the lights would change. It was just every moment you turn a corner and there's something new and exciting that you're like, that is so cool. This fascinated me. I don't know how they rigged the harness to hang from the balloons, and the balloons look like they're just effortlessly there. This is the view of the square. So this is the kind of things, as you can see, every day you show up, there's something new going on. So all of the little canopies on the side are places to eat. And in the center, they're setting up where they did a rock and roll show that night. They'll have other music events. There's a music event going on almost always, it seems like. And this is the main square, the large square. And if you continue straight up, you get to the lower square. Yeah, it's just. And here's just another circus. This is the entrance, just to kind of familiarize, this is the entrance into the pedestrian walkway. The pedestrian walkway leads down to the two main squares and then down to the farmer's market. The housing we stay at, which is this private little place with a gate code and everything. And when you show up, it's amazing because your phone will be set for EduRoam. It'll automatically connect to the internet because they use EduRoam there. So I walk in and my phone starts beeping with messages. Like, I'm in Romania, how's that possible? It's lovely. But our place is about 4 blocks away from this entrance in. And this is another parade of circus performers starting out. These things are just pretty glorious. All along here are places to eat. All along here, there's markets, there's grocery stores. The hardest part for me was figuring out the grocery stores because you had to hit the item and tag it so they knew what to charge you. So you could walk in and you can't grab a banana and walk up. You got to hit the tag for the banana and walk up and then pay them. Other than that, it's pretty easy to get along. As I mentioned, almost everyone in Romania speaks 2 languages at least, and they speak Romanian and German or Romanian and English. So you're almost always going to find people who can communicate with you and help you if you get lost. Medieval towns are easy to get lost in. It's just the nature of the towns. This one's not too bad. You can see the crowds, of course, and the eccentric costumes and the rich international flavor. These are the giant inflatable creatures that came out of nowhere, that just started wandering down the street. Like I said, there's always something fun to do. And in addition, what's great, we're going to spend our days, I spent my first 10 days basically just experiencing this and walking up and down and going to stuff all day long and seeing shows. But we have other things planned as well. So you're not going to just get bored wandering around. We have 4 trips planned within this to take advantage of seeing some really great historic structures and World Heritage sites while we're there. So we're in Transylvania. We're going to have to go see Castle Dracula, Bran Castle. So we're going to head over one morning, take a bus up and visit Bran Castle, which is this where Vlad the Impaler hung out. And he's the guy that in theory Dracula was named after, or at least modeled after. He was probably more gruesome than the actual Dracula, but the way it was back then. We're also going to go to the Citadel of Sighisoara, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We're going to go to Corvin Castle, which is another World Heritage Site. And there's just outside of Sibiu, there's this wonderful, I forgot what they call it. It's essentially a museum of folk culture. And I don't remember the exact title, but it's something along those lines. And they have gathered medieval structures from around Romania and put them in this giant open air park. So you can walk around and they have windmills from the 1300s and houses and fences, and they've all been lovingly restored and all put together in this giant park. And it's just a great way to spend a morning or an afternoon just walking around and seeing, because you get this great perception and understanding of what life was like at that point in time. And these buildings just have a way of teaching you the history in a way that books and pictures just don't do. So we're going to have those 4 trips on top of everything else we do. And that's, of course, all included. And, you know, I mean, this stuff is just really cool. I love all these great costumes. This was a production. This is one of the theaters. It's within the town of Sibiu. There's multiple venues. This was a production that I desperately wish I could find the script and do it, because it just made me so happy. It was a production called The Blacksmiths. And it was a production from Poland. And there was a Polish blacksmith who had been sent off to the war. And he came back and was raising his son. And then, as you know, the play picks up way down the road. He's an older man. And he discovers this other blacksmith shows up, who apparently is actually the father of his son, not him. Because his wife, wanting to ensure that they kept a blacksmith in the family and not sure that her husband would make it home from the war, sought out and slept with another blacksmith just to make sure. Only to then have and all of them are from different countries. So one's from Poland, then one comes from Romania, then a Russian shows up who finds out that he's actually the father of the son of the second one. It's just this convoluted, it's like a soap opera of comedy. And so, and it was so heartwarming and endearing, and all these older actors that are just knocking it out of the park. They were just great to watch. So the thing that made me so entranced with this place is the incredible quality of what these shows were. No matter what I picked, I couldn't have gone wrong. Everything I saw was great. And I did not regret a single ticket for a single show. And there was a dance piece that a couple British dancers did in one of the open markets that to this day is still one of my favorite dance pieces I've ever seen in my life. The quality of the stuff we see there was just outstanding. This was that Citadel I was telling you about, where we basically took a bus and drove up. This was a 13th century castle keep that became a performance venue. The fact that they have these old buildings to use is just amazing. Yeah. And then in addition to dance, in addition to theater, in addition to music, they have art installations as well. And this was this inflatable art installation where they built all these rooms out of inflatable fabric, and you would just go in and wander. And each one, of course, because of the color, would allow a different color into the room. And they were just, all of a sudden they were there one day, and you just went in and wandered around. So this is the type of stuff you can, expect to see every day. You're going to be invited to something new that you've never experienced before almost immediately. Our typical day will be, we'll get up in the morning leisurely, because nothing really starts till about noon. What I would typically do is I would maybe get up and I'd walk down to the farmer's market, and you can grab whatever you wish down at that point. There's markets, there's little restaurants and things all along that you can sit at, or you can just go to quick, convenient places, and they have sausages and rolls and corn and a number of things you can just kind of pick up on your own as you wander around. I don't think I sat down at a formal meal very often, maybe once every other day or so. I just kind of would snack on things. The one glorious thing about Romania is it's still, as popular as it's starting to get, it's still really inexpensive. It was a few years ago, but I think I averaged I spent maybe $10 to $15 a day on food. That was it. So it's a fairly inexpensive place to go. It's still remaking itself, but they're going in the right direction, and it's pretty spectacular. I felt enormously safe at all times in there, and we will make sure that we keep everyone safe. We'll keep the groups together, and we will make sure that everyone knows how to get places and how to get back. Most things are walkable. Some things you have to take a bus for, but most things are walkable. So we'll get up leisurely, maybe grab a bite to eat, and then things will start to begin around noon. We'll have figured out what everybody's schedule is. We'll send them on their way. I'll make sure everyone knows how to get there. We'll probably do a little walkthrough when we first arrive in Romania, just to make sure people know where the venues are, where the markets are, how to get food. They have this one place that's their kind of their version of fast food that you can always default to if you're hungry. They have a number of those places around, and we can walk you through how to take care of all that. I guess, do you guys have any questions for me?
Do you travel as a group to Romania, or is it up to everybody to get there?
The way it's going to work is everyone is on their own to get there, but they need to be there by a certain day. So, because the housing will be available starting a certain day. Now, if someone needs to get there a day early or a day late, we'll figure out how to deal with that. So we've got some wiggle room, but we're going to try and make sure everyone gets there basically a day early. And the Sibfest has announced, they hadn't done this until about 2 weeks ago. They now have announced when Sibfest will be this summer, because they were holding out to see how COVID goes. They wanted to go back to their original time, which is in June. This last year, they did it in August because they're just hoping for time. So they're back. So the Sibfest is going to be the 23rd of June until the 3rd of July. So we're going to get there around, it's not finalized, but we're going to get there around the 22nd, 23rd at the latest. We'll get checked into our spot, and we'll get familiar with the town. We'll go pick up our tickets, and then we'll just start to go. And within those 10 days, we'll pick out the 4 travel times to go to those 4 heritage sites. If you don't want to go to the heritage site, that's fine. You can stay and see shows on your own, but I'm going to try not to leave people all by themselves. I was there completely by myself for 12 days before, and I felt entirely safe, but I kind of started to get bored being the only one there. So I would find people, you'd be sitting at a restaurant and someone would just come up and we'd sit and talk. One woman befriended me at one of the hotels, or not at one of the shows, and she was really annoying. So it took me a while to get rid of her. She just never stopped talking. But people are friendly and nice. So we're going to try and make sure everyone stays engaged and active. You won't get bored at all. There's no chance of that. You will get very familiar with the town, which is good. It's not a gigantic town. The historic part is fairly contained and centralized, and that's where we're going to spend most of our time. The expectation is everyone will be there for the full 10 days. The shows that are available, they usually run on a couple nights. They're rotating them, so it's not like one show is running all 10 days. It might be 2 of the days you have an opportunity to see this, 2 days you might have an opportunity. And it's all over the place. I was mentioning earlier that I went to a Romanian production of Rocky Horror in a karaoke bar, which just was spectacular. We were crammed in there. I'm sure we broke 8 fire codes, but we're all crammed into this karaoke bar that got turned into a performance venue. And these kids performing, I swear to God, they could not have been more excited. It was like someone just turned them loose and said, "You have the right to be as crazy as you want," and it was a blast. So I see a chat. Did we get?
Yep, there's one clarification. This is an opportunity for non-students as well.
Yes, it is. Non-students can come. Students, and this is not, although it says it's the theater festival, it really is not theater. That's the main part of it, but there's so much more. It's got stuff for people from any brand of the arts. Anyone who just likes going to art events. You don't need to be a theater or a dancer or music student. If you just enjoy going to the stuff, this is what it's all about. Non-students can go. The cost, I believe it's $1,150. Right around there, and then you have to do your own plane ticket to get there. Now, one thing I've been doing lately because the taxes in the United States are pricey and we live in Montana. If we just go up into Canada and fly in and out of Canada, it cuts the ticket price in half. I've been able to fly to numerous places in Europe, either from go up to Calgary or all the way over to Vancouver, and recoup whatever cost it took to drive, because a $1,200 ticket all of a sudden is only $600 or $700. So we'll, as a group, look at that, and you can save some money that way. And we might, you know, it might work out that we all get a van and head up to Calgary. It's not that far away. And when you save that much money, it's kind of worth it. The only drawback is you fly back and you land, you're like, oh God, now I got to drive 8 hours. That part's a little demoralizing, but at the same time, you know, you're saving hundreds and hundreds of dollars, so why not? Other questions?
What is the deadline for applying?
I think we've moved it to, we'd like everyone to have been registered for the class by December 1st. And we want to have, we need a minimum probably of about 8 to 10 people to make this work. We have room for up to 14 or maybe even 16. The housing we have is this lovely little, it's affiliated with the university there. And it's just a block away from the university. And it's this little gated, kind of not a dorm, you get your own room, 2 single beds, there'll be 2 people per room, you get your own bathroom. They're nice little rooms, nice, they're comfortable, clean, it's just kind of what you want. You're not staying in a Hilton because you're not in the room very much anyway, but they're nice, lovely, comfortable little rooms. So we'll have 2 people in there, there's basically 10 rooms, so we have room for 20. So if we take away, you know, my wife and I and a couple other faculty people that want to come along, we're down to probably room for about 14 or 16. So yes, and I am going to reach out to some other universities. I've got some friends teach other schools and see if they're interested as well, because you don't have to be a student at the University of Montana to be able to participate in this. You do have to sign up, and the internet office can help you do all that. But are there questions?
Yeah, can I ask a question this way? Can you hear me?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great way to do it.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm an alum, and I originally asked about if non-students could join, but you just mentioned a class component. So even if that's not required, could you just explain that for a second? Because I don't know if as an alum I could
Oh,
even.
so if you're not a student?
Sorry?
Yes, I'd have to check and see how that changes.
Yeah.
Because I did ask if non-students could go, and I was told yes. So
Okay.
I know they can, but I'm not sure how that changes, because you wouldn't be going as a student. So I think we need to come up with a fee structure, because you wouldn't be needing to get the credits. So
Right, but I'm actually curious about the course too. I'm sorry, I just came into this presentation.
Yeah, I didn't really touch on that.
Last
Basically,
minute.
what we're doing for the course is we're meeting once a week, not every week of the semester, probably about every other week. And we're basically going through a few things to get prepared. And the things we want to cover is kind of an introduction to Romanian culture and life, introduction to Sibiu. We're going to be working on picking the shows. As soon as the shows are up and running, my contacts there will let me know, and we will share it. Should all be in the website, and we'll share it, and we'll all as a group decide what everyone wants to see, and everyone can pick their own shows. We're not required to go to shows with other people. And so we're going to get all that stuff prepped. We're going to get, you know, maybe if we get a chance, we might even get a quick little introductory lesson in some basic Romanian terminology. We do have a lovely friend here that teaches in the business school that is from Sibiu. So I'll pick either her or husband to come kind of give us an introductory to how to say hi and thank you. So we'll cover some of that. So we're basically going to prepare ourselves, and then we're going to also use the time to make sure we're organized for the flights, make sure everyone gets, so it's going to be, whilst part of the class is introduction to Romania and Sibiu, a lot of it's really going to be taking care of the housekeeping issues.
Okay.
So, and making sure everyone is all set. make sure all the housing arrangements are taken care of, make sure we know when everyone's arriving, because I need to facilitate getting everyone from the airport to the housing. And that's all covered as part of this. So the only thing that isn't covered is the main flight and the food. As I mentioned, the food is, you know, you can be incredibly frugal there. I was quite content to just eat bread and sausages and corn and whatever was at the market stalls and whatever sounded good that day. So did I answer your question?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'd be curious about taking the course if it worked with my schedule, just not for the credit, of course, but just for the informational value.
Even if you're not a student and not taking the course officially, I still want you involved in it because that's where we're going to solve everything. So, but yeah, that would be lovely. It's a nice way to, you know, we'll do a little research and get really familiar with the historic sites we're going to visit. We'll do a little bit on Romanian architecture and art. So I'll get you guys prepared for what you're going to see. And then we'll probably look into, we're not going specifically to see Romanian theater or Romanian dance, although that's available. We're seeing worldwide stuff. So we'll focus on Sibiu as a community and a city and Romania as a country, but the arts part is going to be all over the place in a really exciting way. Other questions?
That was all that was in the chat.
Okay.
Well, thank you all so much for joining. If you have questions, I put the Global Engagement Office email address and webpage in the chat. Feel free to reach out that way or directly to Mike. But I think that'll wrap us up for today. So thank you for joining and tune in to some more events tomorrow and Friday for International Education Week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.